I think it's about time to talk about how the sky is falling per just about everyone. Uh, paying attention to Texas football recruiting right now. There's been, I say that little tongue in cheek there, but there has been quite a few misses and quite a few that, man, Texas a couple of months ago would have been all over. Xavier Griffin commits to Alabama. That had kind of been the thought since even before he decommitted from USC. Xavier Crowell committed to Alabama. That had been the assumption for the better part of a year now. Texas has no running backs explicitly on the board at this point. We assume that KJ Edwards is still in contact, as much as Texas can be with him. Crowell, don't think that's one that will be a flip candidate really throughout the fall unless Alabama has a bad season. And even then, I think Auburn would be a team to watch out for. He's always kind of struck me as someone that would want to stay in the state. But Texas has the money to pull him out of it, if that's what it comes to. Now we have a couple commitments coming up this week. Tomorrow we have Trenton Henderson, 5-star edge out of Pensacola, and Kendrick Groville out of Fort Myers, who ranks within the top 100 for us. We assumed, and honestly have been reporting it as it was a done deal for the last 2 weeks, that Kendrick Groville would, commit to Texas and join this class. Well, yesterday morning I had a conversation with someone out in Florida, and they made it known to me that Florida has come in with a pretty large offer and one that Texas could counter but maybe not match.
The bag was dropped.
And Kendall Groville is likely headed to the home state Gators after saying for the last 3 months, Texas is the leader in my recruitment. He is the only prospect this cycle to outright say Texas is leading. It's almost like a curse. And especially
Actually, Chase Calicut did that the entire spring.
I forgot about that. He did say that Texas was the team to beat. But Kendall Groville seemed like a ground ball, and now he's very likely headed to Florida. We are still about, 30 hours out from a commitment, somewhere around that, and things could obviously change. But 2 weeks ago, we were on this show, maybe even last week, saying, man, Texas is going to have to make some decisions at defensive line at edge because there's too many guys that are trending their way. And even at the time, Trenton Henderson seemed like one where, Texas kind of come out of nowhere. And I guess that is still possible. But I have, we both have the feeling that they'll finish third tomorrow for him. And now there's only 3 defensive linemen in the class. And there's none that really seem trending towards Texas. Jamarian Carlson could develop it at either edge or defensive line. Personally, I think defensive line. That's where we have him rated and ranked at right now. So I guess you could consider him the 4th. But after him, not too much. So I would assume they stay at 4. If not, I don't really know who they double back on.
Yeah, they can go senior eval or, circle back. There's some other names too. You can always flip some guys down the road. They know that. They're well aware of that.
And I think it is something to note that Bryce Perry Wright has not officially committed yet. We assume that one will be Clemson. I kind of think that Texas is not even the second team there.
He's not going to Texas.
But, Texas at some point in this cycle, and at some point probably pretty soon, we'll have to buy someone. We said that yesterday.
At some point, what? They already have.
It was a while ago, to be honest. But again, I don't want everyone to think that everything is falling down because there have been misses. There have been more misses, definitely than last cycle, and not as much buzz on the flip candidates as there was even amidst the misses last year. But with Kaden Finley's commitment coming up and him basically being a done deal to Notre Dame, Jake Krull is another one. He won't be committing until the fall, but nowhere close to Texas. Jalen Lott, we've heard a monster offer from USC that has kept Texas away. In terms of the commitments that are, happening soon, Smart Matthews is one that I think Texas could really afford to just smoke everyone out.
No pun intended.
Yeah, smoke Matthews.
Real quick.
Yeah.
Let's just go player by player and kind of break down these recruitments. So You hit the nail on the head for Gerville, but kind of just want to give you all the lay of the land for what Florida's dealing with and why they are bagging Kendall Gerville and putting the number on the table that they are. So going to go through their official visits for D-line / edge. Luke Waffle, he is an edge. He's going to USC. They're way overpaying him. Jameer Perez. This is the only kid committed to Florida right now in the interior D-line. He's 6'4" and 360 pounds and a 3-star. These other kids don't need to talk about them. They went elsewhere to Miami or Georgia. Jaraylen McCoy, we have him listed as a D lineman. That kid is edge all the way, 6'6", 245 with some freaky arm and wingspan measurements. There's no way he's ever playing on the interior, at least at the college level. And then you got KJ Ford, who's an edge. Preston Carey is a defensive lineman that committed to Georgia yesterday. He was supposed to go to Florida. So when you look at all this, they have missed on every single interior D-line target they have officially visited besides 2 that are left on the board. Who are those 2 left on the board? Valdon Sound, who Florida at one point was trending for, but is very likely now to end up as a Georgia Bulldog, and then Kendall Gerville. So them only having 1 3-star defensive lineman and everyone else going elsewhere on the interior D-line board is basically forcing them to not miss on Kendall Gerville. They can't miss on him. And, it's a similar boat to where Texas was at last cycle. Like, yes, they were in kind of the same boat, I'd say, for Josiah Sharma and Myron Charles, and those kids ended up elsewhere. But, those were the only 2 interior D linemen that they felt they really had a shot with at all last summer after the dominoes fell elsewhere. And they did what it took to get them. And obviously, they paid a lot to get those 2 guys. That's how they pulled off a flip. So, it's not like this is just coming completely, I'd say, out of the blue for Gerville. I guess it is to some degree since he said all the things he said on record. But, hey, he was saying that June 22nd or whatever, knowing he's not committing until July 2nd and more offers are going to come in. So, it's not the end of the world. A lot of people are mad saying, why doesn't Texas just play ball? We know they have money to outbid these other schools. Yeah, they likely do. But this is a very stupid way of thinking about this, and I hate saying this, but it's a very easy way for most people to understand how it works. If you see something on eBay that you really like, and there are 72 hours left on the bid or on the auction, are you going to put down the first bid 72 hours out, or are you going to do it an hour before the auction ends? Which one? Would you rather be the highest bidder in June or late June, or the highest bidder the week of signing day? Because there is a very big difference there. So, I think Texas can circle back on Gerville? Yes. Do I think they will try? Yes. Do I expect them to get him? No. Because none of those other guys that Florida missed out on are going to end up at Florida. They're still going to need him just as bad. So, Gerville, I expect to commit and eventually sign with Florida. And, hey, Texas, it's, they only have 3 top 247 defensive linemen already committed. It's not nearly as big of a deal as if this would have happened last year. So, not the end of the world, I think. But yeah, we got some questions here too. Scott Ampton said, how does Finley go to Notre Dame and not Texas? Dad freaking played there. It's a great, great question. Texas, they prioritized Finley from the jump. He was, I believe, either the 2nd or 3rd kid that they offered in the entire 2026 cycle, and he got his offer going into his 9th grade year at Aledo. He came to Texas to get that in June. And early on, Texas was the leader. Throughout the whole recruitment, I'd say they were probably the leader. And then they started taking visits elsewhere last summer. Got out to Notre Dame a time or 2, visited for several games in the fall, and then made it up there in January, I believe March and April, and then in early June unofficial before his June OV. He made it to Notre Dame a lot, and it wasn't the same amount as Texas, but he was up there a lot. And one thing, during my time in the industry that I've kind of figured out with Notre Dame, kids know if they hate it or love it within 10 minutes of being on campus, because it's not for everyone. It's just like Clemson. Those types of programs, those types of schools are not for everyone. Not everyone fits up there. And some people hate South Bend as soon as they get there. Some kids love it. And it's usually one or the other. You will know very quick. Finley loved Notre Dame. He loved the campus. He loved the vibe. And like kind of fell in love instantly. As someone who covered Jaden Greathouse pre-Notre Dame offer and post-Notre Dame offer, is obviously now, playing for Notre Dame. It was the same thing with him. He went up there once and just absolutely loved it. So they got in it, I think, around last summer, and then recruited him like their number one receiver, not in the state of Texas, but on their entire board. And also, like, I only know these things because I've been talking to people in the Notre Dame market a lot as of late. They signed a horrific receiver class last year, the year before, and this year it's a bunch of duds for the most part. Like Kaden Finley is the best receiver prospect Notre Dame has signed since Jaden Greathouse, and that was in 2023. That was a long time ago. So I don't know what the NIL offers are. I'm not sure how much it actually matters, considering that the Finley family, it's been very well documented. They have Bunny. His dad made a lot of money during his NFL career, right? So you look at the two different options. Where will he play earlier? It's not like Notre Dame didn't compete for a national championship either. They played in it. That means something. Marcus Freeman has done a phenomenal job recruiting him. Mike Brown has been all in on him and has told him, "You're my number one guy." And he believes it because he knows he'd be the top receiver prospect to go there in the last 3 years. So it's hard to fault him for the choice. I think sometimes losing kids to Notre Dame is almost like when a kid flips to Stanford, where it's like you kind of just got to take the L. I know Notre Dame isn't quite the academic institution that Stanford is, but
pretty close.
Yeah. Close. But like, it's just a very special place, and some kids love it, some kids hate it, and Kaden Finley loves it. So he can play earlier there, loves the campus, loves the staff, and, I mean, he's a souped-up Jaden Greathouse. They can say, "Hey, how good has this guy been?" "Yeah, we think you're better than him, and you'll play in the exact same role." So, I mean, I do think it makes a lot of sense for him to end up there. I'm sure Texas is hitting him over the head with the fact that they've had only 2 receivers drafted in the last 10 years. And one of them is Chase Claypool. The other one is played for the Texans, always was hurt.
Will Fuller.
Those are the only 2 receivers they've had drafted in the last 10 years. Texas had 3 in the 2024 draft alone. But it's not all about that. So those are kind of – I did my best explaining why Finley would end up in Notre Dame like we expect. So, I mean, yeah, it's hard to fault him. I mean, yeah.